Fluent Flow Podcast, episode 63, English at McDonald's.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have a profoundly unique mission today on the deep dive. Usually our source material is, a dense geopolitical analysis or some deep dive into historical archives.
Right, or a complex research paper.
Exactly. Today, our source material is a meticulously crafted 20-minute instructional script, and it's designed for absolute beginners learning English.
Which is fascinating in itself.
It is, and its entire focus is on mastering one single high-stakes real-world moment, ordering food at McDonald's.
What's so interesting here is that we aren't just summarizing an article. We're sort of doing an analytical deep dive of a teaching tool itself.
We're pulling back the curtain.
We really are. We're looking at the strategy behind it. What did these language experts prioritize when they needed to build practical, functional confidence and build it fast in a setting that's, universally recognizable?
Right.
And these sources, they give us this clear blueprint for functional, polite, transactional English that's been stripped down to its absolute essentials. It's all optimized for speed and clarity.
That's it, exactly. And so our mission for you, the listener, is to really analyze this blueprint with us. We want to extract the foundational vocabulary, the crucial polite phrases, and this is the interesting part, the surprising global cultural facts they deliberately weave into this seemingly simple lesson. We're taking the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed, not just about language learning strategies, but about the deep economic and logistical logic that underpins the whole global reach of fast food.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see that global corporations, especially ones with a massive, instantly recognizable footprint like this one, they become these indispensable reference points for practical communication skills.
They become the stage.
They provide a predictable, standardized stage. And that predictability is just vital for a learner, but it demands a very specific, polite, and frankly, a ruthlessly efficient vocabulary set.
Yeah.
This whole lesson, this structure, is fundamentally a linguistic survival guide for communicating within this high-volume global system.
Okay, so let's start with the environment itself. Why McDonald's? The language expert's blueprint, it explicitly calls it one of the most famous restaurants in the world.
Yeah.
And because of that, the perfect place to learn.
And they cite its presence in more than 100 countries.
Right.
And that choice of setting is, I think, maybe the most strategic element of the entire module.
How so?
Well, think about the cognitive load on a beginner. I mean, the sheer amount of stuff they're juggling.
Oh, for sure.
They're grappling with new vocabulary, accents that are spoken way too fast, foreign currency, maybe confusing local customs. It's all happening at once.
It's overwhelming.
Totally. So by placing the lesson inside of McDonald's, the instructional designers, they just slash the external variables. The environment is normalized.
You know what to expect. The golden arches, the layout.
Exactly. The menu, even with all the local adaptations we'll get into, it follows a global format. The procedure, you line up, you order, you pay, you get your food. It's consistent from London to Tokyo.
So that standardization lets the learner just focus on one thing.
100%. It lets them direct nearly all of their cognitive resources purely toward the language without getting swamped by, say, trying to decipher the menu at some independent local cafe. It anchors the whole thing in a globally familiar, predictable routine.
And that structural predictability, that's the foundation. And the source material is surprisingly explicit about how the language should be delivered. The entire module is built around using slow, clear English. And it just emphasizes repetition, repetition, repetition.
Which is a direct, deliberate acknowledgement of the learner's pain points, right? The fear of speaking too quickly, the terror of not being understood.
Yeah.
And this analysis of the script, it really reveals a core principle of good teaching design. Accessibility always trumps complexity, especially when you're starting out.
So the instruction to use slow, clear English isn't just about pace.
No, not at all. It's a methodology. It's a way to eliminate the cognitive load that comes from natural, rapid speech. All the contracted phrases or slang that beginners just cannot process in real time.
We have to pause here because this is so key. This is where the instructional design specifically caters to that need for careful practice and correct pronunciation.
Yes.
That focus on slow, clear delivery means the learner actually has time to form the words, to articulate each sound correctly.
Absolutely. The learner has to practice the mechanics of the English sound system and do it deliberately. The difference between I would like and the contracted I'd like might sound tiny to a native speaker.
Sure.
But for a beginner, I would like gives them 4 distinct, cleanly pronounced syllables. It massively reduces the chance of the cashier mishearing the critical opening of the request.
And the repetition builds a kind of muscle memory.
That's exactly the term. It provides what we call scaffolding.
Yeah.
It lets the neural pathways for this specific kind of transactional English just solidify. You're building that muscle memory for communication so that when you're actually standing at that high pressure counter, your brain defaults to the polite, practiced, clear sentence structure.
Instead of just freezing up.
Instead of freezing up from the stress of it all, this deliberate focus on clarity is really the foundational pillar for building genuine, practical confidence.
Okay, so let's transition now to the essential transactional vocabulary that the source material felt it had to isolate and define. Now, for you, our well-informed listener, we don't need to define these words, but we absolutely need to analyze why these specific 5 words were chosen. Why these 5 are the absolute minimum viable language needed to get a transaction done quickly.
You can almost see them as linguistic data compression tools. They're the essential inputs the system needs to function.
Okay, first up, the script identifies menu.
Okay, so the menu. It serves as the critical reference document.
Okay.
It's the shared reality between the customer and the cashier.
The common ground.
Exactly. And when you analyze its selection, you realize that without the concept of the menu, the whole interaction shifts from a rapid, systematic order to a slow, exploratory discussion.
Which the system cannot handle.
It cannot afford that luxury. The word menu is the linguistic confirmation that the customer is making choices from the standardized, pre-vetted list. It prevents endless, time-consuming questions.
Okay, second, and this one is highly strategic, they define combo.
This is a spectacular example of linguistic efficiency that's driven by pure economic logic.
Right.
The source specifies that a combo usually includes a sandwich, fries, and a drink. Now, just think about the data transmission difference there. A customer can say, I would like a cheeseburger, and I would like a medium order of fries, and I would like a medium soda.
That's a lot of words.
It's roughly 20 to 25 syllables. It takes time, it takes cognitive effort. By contrast, saying, I would like a cheeseburger combo, medium, compresses all of that information into just 10 syllables.
Wow.
The word combo is a single word shortcut. It replaces 3 item names and 2 conjunctions. It's purely a mechanism to increase efficiency and speed up throughput, the very essence of the entire system.
Okay, third is size.
Yeah.
Small, medium, large.
Yeah, these are the essential differentiators. They're the quantifiable metrics that modify the transaction's value and its volume. Mastering size is mastering specificity.
The system has to know.
The system needs to know exactly which version of the Big Mac the customer wants, and the instruction emphasizes pairing that size modifier clearly with the noun a medium Coke, a large fries. This makes sure the system records the precise logistical and cost details of the order without any error.
And the final pair, which closes the loop, to go and here.
This pair defines the consumption context. It's often the final mandatory clarification in the whole transaction. To go means it's packaged for takeout versus here, meaning you're eating inside.
And that one choice determines a lot.
It determines logistics, packaging, sometimes even tax implications. So by identifying these 5 words, menu, combo, size, to go, here, the pedagogical blueprint isolates the absolute linguistic minimum required to get from decision to consumption within the tight constraints of that high-speed system.
So moving on from the nouns and the adjectives, the script places this enormous emphasis on the power of polite phrasing. They teach 2 key ways to start your order, focusing heavily on what the source calls the required politeness for confidence. The first one is, I would like a.
And the experts explicitly describe this as a polite way to order. We really need to analyze the specific power of that little auxiliary verb, would.
Okay.
In this context, it transforms a simple declarative demand like, I want a whey, into a respectful conditional request. It signals deference, it signals patience, and it mitigates the kind of aggressive nature that a direct command might convey, especially across cultural divides.
The would is a politeness tool.
Linguistically, yeah, this use of would is a form of conditional politeness. It elevates the speaker's status from just a demanding customer to a courteous patron, which is just crucial for a nervous beginner who's trying to sound appropriate and confident.
And then there's the slightly more direct but still functional alternative, can I have?
Can I have is very practical. It's efficient, it's direct, but it successfully maintains that politeness. It uses a very common modal verb that implies a request for permission or possibility. It's also a bit faster to say than I would like, which gives the learner two different registers of politeness to choose from.
Right.
But the key insight here is that the script isn't just teaching words, it's teaching the social contract that's wrapped around those words. It prepares the learner for the social expectation of transactional politeness.
And that expectation is, it's hammered home by the repeated stress on the word please. The script actually instructs the learner to include please to ensure they sound polite and nice.
This might seem so basic to a native speaker, but for a learner, it is a crucial linguistic insurance policy against sounding unintentionally rude or abrupt.
Right, because you're so focused on getting the words right, your tone might be flat.
Exactly. In high-pressure, fast-paced environments, tone and simple declarative sentences can easily be misconstrued, especially if pronunciation is a bit off or the intonation isn't quite there.
So please is the fail-safe.
It is. By repeatedly instructing the inclusion of please, the script is teaching not just rudimentary grammar, but essential social literacy. It acts as the lubricant for a smooth interaction. It sends an undeniable signal to the cashier. Even if my English is imperfect, my intention is courteous. The script fundamentally asserts that politeness is a non-negotiable part of building confidence in a service context.
But, there has to be a risk here, right? When we simplify language this much, doesn't this hyper-focus on transactional efficiency kind of strip away the chance for any genuine human or cultural connection? Is this highly standardized system actively discouraging, casual conversation?
That is the essential tension we need to analyze. And yes, absolutely. The system prioritizes clarity and speed over nuance and socialization. The goal of this specific module is successful transaction completion. It is not relationship building. Yeah. But, and this is the clever part, the instructional designers of this script, they seem to be aware of that deficiency. And that brings us to the next section. They compensate by weaving in these little cultural tidbits to make the overall experience feel richer. They're basically saying, master the required simplicity first, so you can then appreciate the inherent complexity of the world it opens up.
That's right. And that's where we get into the menu itself.
What's truly fascinating here is the paradox of globalization in action. While the process of ordering has to be globally standardized for efficiency,
the product itself has to change.
The product must adapt drastically to local tastes and customs. And this section of the lesson, it proves that the English the learner acquires isn't isolated, it's a key. It's a key to unlocking global cultural variety.
It's the brand dealing with the pressure of cultural acceptance. The source material uses this global menu showcase as a kind of reward, showing that the standardized English they just learned is the gateway to exploring all these variations. So let's detail the specific regional menu items they highlight and analyze the strategy behind each one.
Okay, starting with Japan, we encounter the teriyaki burger. Now, this isn't a massive divergence from the core product, but it is a critical flavor shift.
It's a taste profile thing.
It's a huge taste profile thing. Teriyaki sauce is a ubiquitous, deeply integrated, savory, sweet flavor in Japan. So McDonald's recognizes that to capture market share, they have to offer items that feel indigenous, that feel comforting, that compete directly with local food memories. The strategy here is flavor integration. It's showing respect for the local palate.
Then we get to a monumental adaptation, one that's driven by deep necessity, India and Makalu Tiki.
And the script is extremely clear about the reason for this. It states, because many people don't eat beef. This single menu item grounds the entire lesson in profound cultural and religious dietary restrictions.
So it's not just a preference.
Not at all. The maklu tiki, which is typically a potato and pea patty, is not a flavor preference. It is a required substitute that allows the brand to operate ethically and commercially in a massive market where its core product beef is non-viable for a huge segment of the population.
So that raises a fascinating operational question. If the entire historical success of McDonald's is based on this systemization and standardization of a limited menu,
right?
How does introducing an item like the Makalu Tiki with a totally different supply chain, prep time, ingredient list, how does that affect the speed requirement?
And that's where the paradox just sharpens. The operational complexity in the kitchen increases exponentially.
I can imagine.
You need separate grills, separate utensils, a whole new supply chain for potatoes and peas that has to be consistently excellent across thousands of restaurants. And the strategic complexity in the kitchen mandates ultra simplicity and clarity at the counter.
So one drives the other.
The customer must use the English clearly and efficiently, precisely because the kitchen has become more complex. The language has to compress that complex order down to a single, unambiguous item name, Makalu Tiki. just to maintain the throughput.
Okay, moving on to South America, they highlight Brazil and the cheddar McMelt.
The cheddar McMelt, which often features a specific type of melted cheese and sometimes a unique sauce, it caters directly to specific Brazilian preferences for distinct, strong, gooey flavors. This adaptation shows that globalization isn't just about avoiding religious constraint, it's also about flavor innovation that aligns with deeply rooted national culinary preferences.
It's an act of flavor validation.
That's a great way to put it. They are saying, we respect your taste profile.
And we have the most surprising inclusion, mentioned specifically for France, the presence of macarons.
The macaron inclusion is maybe the most illustrative example of brand elevation and market pressure.
Because France has such a high culinary standard.
Exactly. McDonald's in France is competing in a market with extremely high expectations for quality, for freshness, for pastry excellence. So to sell a macaron, a recognizable high-status French delicacy, it signals that McDonald's is capable of meeting local standards of sophistication.
It's a strategic move.
A huge strategic move to integrate the brand into the local food landscape, moving beyond just speed and positioning itself as a legitimate, accessible, casual dining option that still respects the local culinary high ground.
And finally, we had South Korea and the bulgogi burger.
And similar to the teriyaki burger, the bulgogi burger incorporates a beloved traditional savory sweet marinated meat flavor that is just fundamental to Korean cuisine.
It's a core flavor.
It's not just popular, it's culturally integral. It's an affirmation that this global brand is willing to localize its core offerings to reflect the popular tastes of the host nation, ensuring instant recognition and appeal. These items are these carefully chosen anchors to make the brand feel like a local choice, not just an imported one.
So, this whole section, it argues that knowing these diverse facts makes ordering and traveling fun.
Absolutely. It transforms the transactional experience into a cultural opening. If you know about the mekalutiki or the macarons, you have a conversational starting point beyond just the simple order.
It gives you context.
It provides cultural context. It makes the learner feel informed and engaged with the global community. It gives weight to the simple English they are learning, showing that it's the necessary bridge to understanding and exploring genuine global variety. The language may be standardized, but the world it describes is anything but.
To really grasp why the language of ordering at McDonald's has to be so simple and efficient, why that script focuses so much on data compression, we have to look at the history that the source material provides. It grounds the entire lesson in the 1940 start.
Right. The source material details the founding in 1940 in California, United States, by two brothers, Richard and Maurice McDonald. And this establishes the origin story, but the real narrative pivot, the reason this history is even relevant to a language lesson, happens a bit later.
Yes, the source clearly states that in the beginning, the restaurant wasn't fast food. It was a traditional car hop, sit-down operation.
Totally dependent on skilled labor and custom orders. This pre-system era is crucial context.
Because it was slow.
It was slow, it was expensive, and it was inconsistent. If a customer walked up to the counter in, say, 1945, they might spend 3 or 4 minutes ordering a custom shake, a grilled sandwich, asking for substitutions. The complexity of the dialogue matched the complexity of the preparation.
And that system was breaking down.
It was riddled with errors and delays, frustrating both the owners and the customers waiting for their food.
And this brings us to the core historical element, the script references. The radical creation of a very fast system to prepare food in 1948. This is the moment the transaction changed forever.
This was the industrialization of the restaurant. They didn't invent the hamburger. They invented the assembly line for food service.
The speedy service system.
That's it. They limited the menu drastically. They got rid of 90% of the items to focus only on things that could be prepared rapidly, like hamburgers and fries. They moved from skilled cooks to assembly line labor. They used standardized portion control and minimized customization.
And that reduction in menu complexity directly dictated a reduction in linguistic complexity.
Oh, 1-to-1. If you only offer 9 items, your ordering vocabulary instantly shrinks from hundreds of possibilities down to just 9.
Right.
And they introduced the self-service counter, getting rid of the car hops. This self-service model meant the customer was now interfacing directly with the system, and that interface had to be flawless and fast. The transition to speed demanded a complete shift in the required communication style. The dialogue changed from a casual, exploratory exchange to a rigid transactional protocol.
And that systemization is what the script notes helped make McDonald's huge, allowing it to grow to thousands of restaurants around the world.
And that is the sole driver for why this beginner language instruction focuses so heavily on speed and clarity.
So let's delve a bit deeper into how the history of the system dictates the language. Before the speedy system, a customer might say something like, "Good evening, I was thinking about a barbecue sandwich, but could you hold the onions and maybe add a slice of extra sharp cheddar? And I'd like a thick chocolate malt."
I mean, that is rich, descriptive, negotiable language.
And now compare that to the post-system reality. Big Mac combo, medium to go.
The old language allowed for negotiation and personalization. The new language demands conformity and efficiency. The entire linguistic structure taught in the learning module. Short, clear sentences, polite binary choices like to go or here, it's dictated entirely by this historical shift toward maximizing throughput.
If the system can't make a custom sandwich, the language must not ask for one.
The language has to conform to the physical limitations of the assembly line. That's it.
So when the beginner learner practices saying, "I would like a Big Mac combo, medium," they are not just practicing English, they are practicing language that has been optimized for the industrial logic that Richard and Reese McDonald established back in 1948.
That is the absolute key synthesis. The entire learning script is teaching the user how to be an efficient participant in a global, optimized logistical chain. The confidence the learner gains is directly tied to mastering the language that allows this rapid flow to continue unimpeded.
So the simple sentence structure is, in essence, an algorithm.
It's an algorithm for a successful, high-speed economic transaction.
Yeah. And this raises an important point for the pedagogical designers. They had to teach the learner not just what to say, but how to say it, slowly and clearly, to make sure the industrial machine doesn't choke on ambiguous input.
Yes, because the pressure on the language student is immense, but the pressure on the cashier is even greater. The cashier is the linguistic bottleneck of a system that's designed to move 75 hamburgers every second. Any pause, any ambiguity, causes a backup in the entire chain. Therefore, the instruction to speak slow, clear English is the learner's responsibility to the system. It's about ensuring the information transmits cleanly the first time, preventing the cost and delay of having to repeat the order. Clarity becomes the economic imperative.
Okay, now we move into the practical application. We're going to analyze the specific dialogue examples the script uses to coach the learner. These are the models of perfect transactional English.
Engineered for speed and clarity.
Right.
And these samples, they illustrate precisely how that minimum viable language vocabulary and the polite phrases all combine into a functional, complete request. The simple, repeatable sentence construction is not an accident. It's an engineering marvel of human communication.
Let's deconstruct example 1, Sarah's practice. "I would like a Big Mac combo, medium, with a Coke, please."
This just demonstrates the pinnacle of efficiency. You have polite initiation, plus item, plus efficiency shortcut combo, plus specific variable size, plus customization, drink.
It's a stack.
It's a stack of qualifiers. The phrase starts with the polished 4-syllable initiation, "I would like," immediately names the product, Big Mac, applies the data compression tool, combo, specifies the mandatory variable medium, and then finalizes the choice with a Coke. And the closing please acts as the polite seal on the whole thing.
It's a highly compressed, information-rich statement.
Maximizing data transfer in minimal time.
And crucially, the learner is practicing saying the word medium slowly and clearly. The distinction between small, medium, and large has to be pristine. Otherwise, the whole order is wrong.
And that is the core point of the slow, clear English mandate. The vowel sounds and terminal consonants in small, medium, and large must be clearly articulated. If the learner rushes, small can just bleed into medium in the ears of a busy cashier. The instructional module is forcing auditory distinction through deliberate, slow articulation.
Okay, then we have example 2, Jack's practice. "Can I have a McChicken sandwich, a large fries, and a small orange juice, please?"
So this demonstrates the alternative, slightly more complex structure, separate item listing with varying sizes.
Right, no combo shortcut here.
No. Jack is ordering 3 distinct units. This introduces the use of the conjunction "and" to chain multiple requests together, but notice the consistency. He pairs the size modifier directly with each item, a large fries and a small orange juice.
So it teaches structural flexibility.
Exactly. How to order either the bundled package or the individual components while staying clear and polite, avoiding that ambiguity of asking for all items to be the same size later on.
So the structural takeaway is this simple formula, can I have, plus main item, plus size food, plus conjunction, and plus secondary item drink.
And that simple formula is the linguistic engine of the transaction. It maximizes clarity and minimizes ambiguity for the cashier. They need to hear the core information, the items and the modifications, in a precise, predictable sequence that can be instantly punched into the register.
And by sticking to that structure, you reduce the chance of errors.
You reduce miscommunication, repeats, and critically, you reduce the time spent at the counter, which keeps the line moving.
So after the main request is made, the source focuses on closing the loop. These are the essential clarification phrases used by both the customer and the cashier to make sure the transaction ends correctly. Number 1. That's all. Thank you.
This phrase is absolutely critical for confirmation. In a high-volume setting, the cashier cannot assume the order is finished. They need a definitive confirmation.
It needs a stop signal.
A clear stop signal, that's all, confirms the completion of the request, and it prevents the cashier from waiting around or asking time-consuming, open-ended questions like, is that everything? And the thank you just maintains that polite tone to the very end.
Okay. Number 2 is the standard mandatory question from the cashier. For here or to go?
As we established, this is the final logistical clarification. The learner must be prepared to hear this precise 4-word phrase and immediately respond with one of the 2 clear practiced answers. For here, or to go, please, it's a classic binary choice. A zero-friction moment of decision that dictates packaging and fulfillment.
And then, perhaps the most vital phrase for the nervous beginner, the linguistic emergency button, number 3. Can you repeat that, please?
This phrase is non-negotiable for confidence. It is the prepared, polite mechanism for dealing with comprehension failure.
Which is going to happen.
It is a certainty for a beginner, especially when you're faced with rapid speech, a thick accent, or just background noise. It empowers the learner to pause the high-speed transaction, request clarification politely, and manage the situation when clarity breaks down.
It takes the pressure off.
It removes the pressure of having to decode unclear speech instantly. By teaching this phrase, the script acknowledges the vulnerability of the learner and provides them with a polite, practiced way to regain control and ensure accuracy without appearing flustered or rude. And honestly, the successful execution of this phrase is often the biggest confidence builder of the entire learning process.
And the practice segment itself, focusing on deliberate, slow repetition of simple structures like, can I have a cheeseburger, please? It just reinforces this whole core lesson.
It drives home the understanding that this entire transactional language module is a performance skill. The learner has to practice the movements, the pronunciation, the specific rhythm, the clear articulation, just like practicing a physical drill. The success of the transaction hinges on the learner's ability to deliver a clear, unambiguous message, which can only be achieved through slow, meticulous practice beforehand.
The preparation buys you the speed in the moment.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
All right, here's where it gets really interesting. The instructional module wraps up the whole lesson with facts that show the sheer, staggering scale of the operation the learner just mastered communication within. It transitions the lesson from this, local linguistic challenge to a global economic reality.
And these facts, they serve 2 distinct purposes. First, they provide a sense of awe, reinforcing the brand's global significance. And second, they provide the implicit, undeniable justification for why such ultra-efficient communication is necessary. The system operates on a scale that's just too vast to tolerate any inefficiency.
Okay, let's start with the facts related to scale and volume. First up, McDonald's sells more than 75 hamburgers every second.
75 per second. You have to analyze that number as a constant economic velocity. It demonstrates the relentless pace of the business and the unforgiving nature of that standardized system they developed in 1940.
It's the engine.
It is the engine that drives the need for the rapid, standardized dialogue that the learner just spent 20 minutes mastering. If your order takes 15 seconds too long, you have theoretically held up the global production of 11,125 hamburgers.
Wow. Putting it that way.
Right. This metric gives profound weight to the entire lesson's focus on speed and clarity. It positions the learner's successful transaction as a small but necessary cog in a massive economic machine.
And the second quantity fact, the French fries are the single most popular item.
Which is a nod to standardization and consistency. Fries are arguably the most standardized product they have globally. They offer the exact same taste and texture experience whether you are in Paris, Seoul, or New York.
They're the constant.
They are. This high popularity reinforces the brand's identity as a purveyor of reliable, universal comfort food. Despite all the localized menu adaptations we discussed, the core, original, standardized items still dominate the volume, reinforcing that overall theme of consistency.
Okay, now we move into the social and infrastructural reach of the brand. This is where the facts get really provocative and analytical. Fact 1. In some countries, there are more McDonald's restaurants than hospitals.
This infrastructural density comparison is highly revealing. It contrasts the rapid, decentralized commercial expansion of a global company with the often slower, centralized, state-funded development of public health infrastructure.
It underscores the sheer accessibility of the brand.
Ubiquitous accessibility. The availability of a standardized meal is, in some places, greater than the availability of emergency medical care. And the sheer number of locations underscores why this brand is the perfect place for language practice. It is guaranteed to be available to the learner, making the lesson universally applicable.
But help us understand the implication of that infrastructural density. It seems to elevate the brand from just a restaurant to a critical piece of social navigation infrastructure.
It does exactly that. In developing economies or in rapidly urbanizing regions, a McDonald's location is a known quantity. It often signifies reliable cleanliness, consistent product, access to Wi-Fi, a predictable bathroom.
It's a landmark.
It's a globally recognized beacon, and the instructional designers leverage this ubiquity. The learner knows that wherever they travel, if they can master the English required to navigate this one counter, they have unlocked a global utility.
And finally, the most surprising historical anecdote, which demonstrates the deepest cultural embedding possible. In Hong Kong, there used to be McDonald's weddings.
I mean, this is the ultimate proof that the brand has transcended commerce and become a part of the local social fabric.
A what?
When a commercial entity becomes the chosen site for major, defining life ceremonies, like a wedding, it signifies deep cultural acceptance. It represents reliability, consistency, accessibility, and for some, nostalgia. For that community, McDonald's was deemed a sufficiently stable, predictable, and welcoming location to mark a major life transition. It completes the picture. This is not just a place to get a burger, it's a cultural institution that has earned its place in the global social landscape.
The script then wraps up the learning module with a final practice conversation. A customer ordering chicken nuggets, medium, with a small iced tea. It's like the final exam.
It is. It forces the learner to synthesize all the elements they practiced. The polite initiation, the item, the size, the specialized drink, and the confident closing phrase.
It brings it all together.
That final practice is the culmination. It proves the mastery of that simple yet essential formula for successful communication in a globally standardized context. The learner graduates from being a nervous beginner to an efficient participant in a global logistical chain, armed with precise, polished language optimized for high-speed commerce.
So let's synthesize the core lessons we've extracted from this pretty unique instructional source material. We started by looking at a lesson for nervous beginners, but what we ended up analyzing was really a comprehensive blueprint for global linguistic and economic efficiency.
And the foundation of that blueprint, it rests on the deliberate choice of language that provides the necessary cultural lubrication for any request. This means prioritizing polite phrases, I would like, and can I have, to ensure that even when the beginner struggles with pronunciation, the intent is clear, respectful, and appropriate for that high-volume service environment.
And critically, the entire lesson hinged on the simple structure of the transactional language. The use of data compression shortcuts like combo, the essential binary choice of here or to go, and that efficient chaining of items using the defined sentence formula.
And that simplicity is directly engineered to match the speed of the company's very fast system developed way back in 1948.
And while the language is standardized for efficiency, the material wisely acknowledged the deep cultural necessity of localized menus, from the Mekalu Tiki, required by religious observance in India,
to the bulgogi burger-affirming Korean flavor profiles. The clear, standardized English is the necessary tool for efficiency, but local culture dictates the product itself, forcing the entire system to absorb increasing complexity in the kitchen that has to be counterbalanced by radical simplicity at the counter.
Knowledge is most valuable when you can understand it and apply it. And what we analyze today is more than just a list of vocabulary and fun facts. It's an intellectual deep dive into the blueprint for maximizing communication in a high-volume global system. It shows that in modern commerce, the simplest, clearest language isn't just polite. It is often the most powerful and economically necessary tool you have.
We spent a lot of time analyzing that fast system that drove this global expansion, a system built on ruthless optimization. And given the fact that McDonald's sells more than 75 hamburgers every second, we have to consider the extraordinary economic pressure that dictates the very structure and simplicity of the language taught in this script.
Right.
So I'll leave you with this thought. What level of language clarity and simplicity is absolutely essential for the people working the counter just to keep that incredible flow moving? Think about the millions of transactions that occur every single day. The pressure is on the customer to conform their language to the system's needs. The realization is that in high-speed global commerce, communication has to be utilitarian, predictable, and simple above all else. That practiced, clear, polite phrase is a key economic efficiency mechanism, and mastering it makes you an effective participant in the global economy.